Well, I guess I don't see his response.
Does anyone know his cell phone number to text him?
Well, I think we just get started with,
You know what? I remember Carolyn did say that we barely had quorum. How to do? So I think it's just 3 tonight.
Okay.
Let me start the recording. We're on and we're live on YouTube now.
Good evening and welcome to the October 12th Design Review Commission meeting for the City of Lafayette. I'd like to start out by doing roll call. Commissioner Cass,
present.
Commissioner Hadaloo,
Present.
and I, Commissioner Seidel, am present. And I would next like to ask if we have a motion to adopt the agenda for this meeting.
I'll make the motion to adopt the agenda.
And I second that.
Okay, and we will do a vote. Commissioner Cass,
Aye.
Commissioner Hadaloo,
Aye.
and I, Commissioner Seidel, also vote to approve the agenda. So we have an approved agenda. The next item on tonight's agenda is, do we have any public comments for items not on this or an upcoming agenda within the purview of this commission?
If anyone has any comments for items not on the agenda, please use the raise hand function. I did see some hands raised earlier, so I'm going to lower that and see if we still have a comment for items not on the agenda. Barbara Stone, I am promoting her to panelist.
Ms. Stone, you're in the meeting. Go ahead and unmute yourself and feel free to share your item. Ms. Stone,
My
Oh.
neighbors I don't know what's on your agenda, so I don't know if my neighbors are on your agenda. I'm here to support my neighbors.
so the items on the agenda relate to, we have a continued public hearing for 3721 Mount Diablo Boulevard, and we have study sessions for 945 Yorkshire Court and 951 Yorkshire Court. Are those the items that you are here to
Yes,
support?
yes, the two houses on Yorkshire Court are what I'm interested in, but my neighbors were supposed to be joining you and they have all the information, so.
Great. So we will be, since that is on the agenda, we will be hearing a presentation and then opening back up for public comment. So at that point, we will ask you to rejoin as a panelist then and share your comment. But right now, unless you have a comment that is separate from that, we don't need to hear from you now, but we'll look forward to hearing from you on that item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm seeing no other hands raised.
Okay. Nancy, we have an Aaron Hollister in the meeting. Do you know who?
He's part of the project team.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So no other public comments. So we will move on to the consent calendar. The first item on the consent calendar, actually the only item on the consent calendar, is the approval of the September 14th meeting minutes. Does anyone have a comment on those meeting minutes or a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. We now can vote on that. Commissioner Cass,
Aye.
Commissioner Hadaloo,
Aye.
and I, Kristen Seidel, also vote to approve the meeting minutes from September 14th. The next item on our agenda is a continued public hearing for DR 20-19DD 3721 Land LLC and DR 20-19DD 37. Oh, sorry, and the owner is Land 3721 Land LLC. It is a request for review of design details associated with TR 9526, which was a request for design review for the demolition of an existing 5,962 square foot commercial building and the construction of a new 37,915 square foot 4-story multifamily development containing 12 units and subterranean parking with a maximum height of 56 foot 6 inches, requiring approval of a major subdivision through a tract application and 3,550 cubic yards of earth movement, a cut on a parcel located at 3721 Mount Diablo Boulevard. And the
Can I
project,
interrupt for a second?
yes,
I have to abstain from this, so we do not have a quorum on this item.
and the recommendation is to continue with that discussion to November 23rd anyhow. So the recommendation was already to continue it and we don't have a quorum on it. So do we need to vote on that? I guess we do need to vote, or because
We wouldn't have enough to make the vote, but it'll be automatically continued to the next meeting or
Great.
to November 23rd.
Okay, great. So we do not have any new public hearings, so that brings us on to the study sessions. And there are 2 study sessions for properties both on the same street. We will be starting with the study session to review conceptual plans to demolish an existing 1-story, 2,213 square foot single-family residence with a garage and construct a new 2-story, 3,795 square foot single-family residence and garage with a maximum ridge height of 30 feet on a developed parcel in the Hillside Overlay District at 945 Yorkshire Court. So the recommendation is that we review the proposal and provide feedback to the applicant. This is just an informational item and we will not be taking formal action on it tonight. So,
I'd like to introduce a new staff member, Anna Toll, and she'll be presenting on these next 2 study sessions.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen here. I will be presenting tonight on SS 14-22 and SS 15-22 in the same presentation tonight. The 2 proposals are on adjacent properties and they are by the same applicant. And you already mentioned Commissioner Seidel, but I did want to highlight before I begin that the study session is just an informational item. It's designed to allow the Design Review Commission to provide feedback to the applicant on their conceptual plans before submitting an application.
sorry, can I interject before we begin? Since both of these are being presented together, are we doing our comments separately or together? Just since they're separate agenda items, I just want to make sure we understand how we want to handle the comments and discussion.
I will defer to if you have a preference for doing that, or if Nancy has a preference for how she'd like to record that.
I believe when we the applicant came for some other applications on Upper Happy Valley Road, the commission had provided comments individually for each of them,
Okay,
one by one.
we can do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So SS 14-22, the request for review, or the request for the study session is to, the conceptual plans are to demolish an existing 1-story, 2,213 square foot single family residence with garage, replace it with a new 2-story, 3,795 square foot single family residence with garage with a maximum ridge height of 30 feet. This is a developed parcel in the Hillside Overlay District, and that one is 945 Yorkshire Court. The SS 15-22 is, oh, these are both R6 zoning, sorry. This is a request, the study session will review conceptual plans to demolish an existing single-story 1,571 square foot single family residence with garage and replace it with a new 2-story 4,185 square foot single family residence and garage. This proposes a maximum ridge height of 30 feet 11 inches, and again, this is a developed parcel in the Hillside Overlay District. This is 951 Yorkshire Court. So the applicant, Thomas James Holmes, is seeking the design feedback on each of the proposed residences at 945 and 951 Yorkshire Court. These projects are located at and also near the intersection of Yorkshire Court and Ridge Road. The sites themselves are relatively flat, but they are downslope from a ridge line. It is shown in the bottom of this image. Both sites are in the Hillside Overlay District and would require a hillside development permit if a full application is submitted. The first project at 945 Yorkshire Court is a 0.16 acre developed lot. The design proposes the demolition of the existing one-story residence and the construction of a new two-story traditional style residence with 3,294 square feet of living space and a 501 square foot attached garage. The project proposes the house with a maximum height of 30 feet. As I mentioned previously, access to the driveway comes via, or the house comes via an existing 20-foot driveway. It is apparent but not quite clear from the site plan that a number of trees would be removed, possibly up to 15. I believe they are marked with X's on this site plan, but no tree survey was included. These are, we don't require for study sessions, we don't require complete plan set. If a full application is submitted, it is possible that a tree permit application may be necessary. Without details on the size and species of the trees on site, that was unclear to me at this time. The residence at 945 Yorkshire, again, this maximum ridge height would be 30 feet. It uses white and black colors and materials, again, traditional style architecture. These renderings show the proposal from the east elevation and an angle from the southeast here. So I'd like to go on to the second project at 951 Yorkshire. It is
Anna,
also,
sorry to interrupt. I wonder if, since we're going to treat these as separate items, if we should have questions, comments, and full comments on the first project and then do this one second, since we're doing separate comments. So I think that would be a more clear way to do that, if you don't mind.
that is okay with me. There is, the applicant provided us with a narrative and a packet that includes the two properties and compares them sort of in the same context. So there will be some materials that looks at them next to each other that I also have in this presentation. But if you'd like to make any comments now, that is okay with me.
Why don't you go ahead and show the materials, just so we have the sort of full presentation. I realize they may be applicable to both, but everything that applies to the first project, we'll hear comments and discussion, and then do the second project.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So the 951 Yorkshire is also a roughly 0.16 acre developed lot. The proposal includes the demolition of an existing one-story residence and the construction of a new two-story residence with 3,669 square foot living space and a 516 square foot attached garage. The maximum ridge height proposed for this property is 30 feet 11 inches. And similar to the other property, access to it comes via an existing 20-foot driveway. The project proposes the removal of 7 trees, none of which are protected species, and the project proposes a total of 3,975 square feet of impervious surface on a 6,900 square foot lot. This residence at 951 Yorkshire uses light and black colors and materials in a modern farmhouse style. And these renderings show the proposal at the east elevation and from the southeast here. And so this is what I wanted to show with the properties next to each other. So the applicant did provide these site sections, but they do not display the building height in comparison with the surrounding properties. They are more the surface level. So they did also provide this rendering comparing, excuse me, the height of the two projects with an existing property, neighboring residence, and also Ridge Road. So while the sites themselves are primarily flat where the residences are proposed to be built, the overall surrounding area is on more of a slope, leading to some potential privacy concerns that would need to be addressed for the project. And just to touch on the public comments that we received, we did not, for study sessions, we send out a courtesy notice at the same standard as our public hearing notice. And we did not receive any public comment before staff report publication, but we did receive several public comments after that staff report publication. I have uploaded them to the city's website and forwarded a compiled PDF copy to commissioners prior to this meeting. The main concerns in those comments were regarding the size, height, and lot coverage of both of the proposed projects, the contrast with existing homes in the area and what that means in terms of neighborhood compatibility, and the impact on privacy and visibility that these projects might have. So staff did also receive one public comment, written comment in support of the project, specifically for the 945 Yorkshire, citing their perceived local demand for larger homes and acknowledging a well-designed conceptual plan. So this ultimately concludes my presentation, and no formal action is going to be taken, but I just ask that you please review the application and to provide feedback to the applicant, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Anna. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Anna?
None for me.
I have a question regarding the height of the building
Mhm.
in terms of the required versus proposed. On the application it says 35-foot required, 30-foot proposed, and then in terms of the measurements, can you did you have a chance to check like if the measurements are conforming and that 35-foot, is that the right height?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're referring to with the 35-foot required. I
So on
believe,
on
is it on the
the
staff report?
no, it's on the drawing set on page A0.0. It has a table zoning information that just says that all the setbacks and the height required versus proposed, and it's based on the R6 zone. So I'm wondering if a staff has any comment about the height from what's required per the zoning versus what's been proposed here.
Okay, are these the plans that you're looking at? Do you mind if I stop sharing my screen, or is it more helpful if I leave it on?
I guess if you're looking for an answer, you don't have to share your screen. And I assume we also have the owner doing a presentation.
Yes, I believe either one or multiple people from the applicant team are here tonight.
Yeah, so while the applicant, if you have to look up a couple things to be able to answer that,
Yeah.
maybe you can do that while the applicant does their presentation.
I believe what Commissioner Hadaloo is referring to is the maximum height limit imposed, and that maximum height limit is 35 feet. So I think the reason they list that with the proposed height is to show that the proposed height is not above the maximum height limit for this, zoning area.
Thank you.
Any other questions, or shall we have the applicant do their presentation? Okay,
Go with the applicant.
yeah, let's go ahead with the applicant, please.
Thank you.
I will be promoting Casper Liu and Aaron Hollister.
Thank you.
All right, can you hear me and see my screen?
Yes, and yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So before we start, I want to take the time to introduce a couple team members who have joined me tonight. We have Dave Pocket, our architect for both Yorkshire projects, and Aaron Holster, another representative from Thomas James Homes. They're also available to answer any questions that staff or neighbors may have if those arise. With that, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Casper Liu, and I'm a representative for Thomas James Homes. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to our proposal on 945 and 951 Yorkshire Court. We are still early in the design process, as you know, and welcome feedback from the city and neighbors alike. After tonight's study session, we hope to better inform you of our design process and considerations we've made during our design process. I want to clarify that this presentation consists of 2 homes we are proposing for consideration. In the site section shown in the middle of the page, they are adjacent to one another. At the bottom, we show renderings of the existing and proposed homes. All right, the neighborhood consists of a diversity of styles, colors, and materials and scales, with a mixture of 1-story and 2-story homes and 1-story homes with additions. All houses immediately adjacent to our site are 2 stories. The diagram shown shows yellow rings, which highlight homes in the immediate vicinity to our project that either have 2 stories or notable height when viewed from street level. All adjacent homes are depicted below. Some homes in the neighborhood maintain a continuous frontage along the street. However, the predominant condition is for homes to have a setback to create movement at the front of the home facing the street. And that is what is proposed at both 945 and 951 Yorkshire Court. The step back massing not only creates a design language between both proposed projects, but complements most of the homes in the immediate vicinity. Architecturally, it also provides a more interesting and less monotonous facade. Homes with step back conditions in the immediate vicinity are shown in yellow, and homes with a flat facade are depicted in pink. So finding inspiration in color and materials for 945 Yorkshire. For walls, the neighborhood consists primarily of stucco and horizontal siding and accents of stone and brick. The proposal features similar materials and in particular pulls inspiration from 3333 Ridge Road and 936 Hawthorne Drive shown below. For colors, the color palette of the neighborhood is predominantly warm tones, which are medium or bright. The proposal takes cues from lighter, brighter homes in the area. And for the roof, the majority of the homes in the area feature sloped gabled roofs or hipped roofs with composite shingle. These features have been integrated into our proposal. For 951 Yorkshire, we've taken the same design approach, but we have pulled inspiration from 3333 Ridge Road again, with a mix of 936 Hawthorne Drive shown below. For variation, we have incorporated larger vertical siding and a more beige color scheme with stone accents. Since we have a unique condition where our proposed projects are immediately adjacent to one another, we can have both houses speak to one another through design. We've taken advantage of this relationship via entry design, garage variation, and window layout as shown in the next few slides. Home entries in the immediate vicinity primarily have shed roofs running parallel to the street with prominent porches. In most cases, posts are also used to announce the entry. In keeping with this pattern, the entry for both homes announced with a covered porch, with a shed roof and wood posts flanking the entry path. Simple wood posts with wood railings are proposed, pulling inspiration from many houses in the vicinity shown below. Homes in this neighborhood primarily feature 2-car garages with white doors which face the street. Of these, about half the garage doors feature glazing in the uppermost panel of the door. In keeping with this pattern, both projects propose 2-car garages with a single door painted white. One garage door with windows in the uppermost panels and one without for variation. Homes in this neighborhood typically have windows with white frames and a traditional grid pattern, and wide window trims painted a different color than the main body of the house. Our proposed home features a similar contextual design style of windows. A variety of windows gathered from the neighboring homes are shown below. Here's a perspective view of both projects side by side, incorporating all the design highlights just mentioned. Both 945 and 951 Yorkshire have been carefully considered, taking inspiration from the patterns of this specific neighborhood. The proposal thoughtfully responds to the neighboring context through its approach to massing, scale, setbacks, and through the use of color and material. Furthermore, the proposal are contextual in its use of two-car garage, creating a prominent porch, and through traditional window articulation. Thank you again for your time. We are open to feedback.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant?
Yes. 961, is that a one-story behind there?
So you're referring to this house on this map, right?
Correct.
No, this
Yes.
is a two-story house as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I believe that now we open it up to public comment. And I suspect we have a number of comments.
If anyone would like to make a comment on this item, please raise your hand or use the *9 function.
And Nancy, as we get ready for you to let them in, could you remind everyone what the amount of time they have available for their comment?
Each public comment speaker will have 3 minutes to make a comment. Blue sky timer is on Zoom, so I will start that once you are ready to speak. I am first promoting Jim Nancy.
Thank you. Okay, so you are in the meeting. Feel free to unmute yourself and share your comments on this project. We don't hear you, so you're still muted.
He is currently being brought
Oh,
in.
sorry.
It takes a couple of seconds.
Yeah, sorry. Right, Mr. Manzi, you are in the meeting and feel free to unmute yourself and share your comment for up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Going through the learning curve on Zoom. I don't usually get on Zoom, so I apologize.
No worries.
Anyway, I want to just first off be positive about this development because the two homes that are there are relatively old, and it'd be a nice improvement in the neighborhood to have new construction. With that being said, I think that there's some concerns that I have. The biggest one is that these homes are just out of proportion to that actual neighborhood on Yorkshire and Ridge Road. And, you know, recently down at the end of Yorkshire, a home was remodeled from the ground up, but kept the same footprint. And they did just an amazing job. And obviously that was approved by the city going through the process. And so what I would encourage the developer and the planning commission to look at is maybe to restructure these two homes so that they blend in with the neighborhood. Because right now, these two homes with 2 stories, as big as they are, you know, quite frankly, the way I see it anyway, is that they're just going to be out of proportion and out of context to this neighborhood, which, you know, has smaller homes and, you know, they all seem to blend together. I agree that the 2 homes, it'll be an improvement, whatever happens, but I would just like it to look at that, to not make them so large and out of proportion. I don't know if my 3 minutes are up, but the other thing that they don't know about, and maybe the city doesn't know about, is that there is an underground drainage issue behind both of those homes that goes down to the trail. And before anything is done there with this, I think that an environmental impact report and or some sort of drainage study should be done, because that's sincerely a big problem. Another issue is with 5 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms, that means there's going to be a lot of people. Parking is really tight on that street. It's tight right now. And it's obviously even going to get worse.
You have 30 more seconds.
Right? Or I got 26. Okay. Parking is a problem. Drainage, environmental impact is a problem. I think it's going to block my view. I really can't tell. I don't want to, cry wolf until I see maybe some flags go up around there to see how high this is really going to look. That's it.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Mr. Manzi, where do you live? What was your address?
Yeah, I'm at 3333 Ridge Road. I was prominently featured in the
Okay.
presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right. Thank you, Mr. Manzi.
you're welcome.
Nancy, are there other comments from the public?
If there is anyone else who would like to make a comment on any of these items, please use the raise hand function or press *9. I see James Audley. Come on in now.
Mr. Audley, you've been promoted to the level of panelist, I guess we call it, which means you have 3 minutes to share your comments related to this project. And the timer will go off when you have 30 seconds left as a warning. So please unmute yourself and share your comments.
Well, I feel so honored to be promoted as a panelist. My wife and I, we live next door, just to the north of the proposed 951 Yorkshire Court proposed construction. But first of all, I want to let you know, you guys do great work and thank you so much. Like, I know it's not a paid gig and put your time and effort in, so thank you for all that. I know my 3 minutes are going to be short for all the things I had to say. I actually put in an 18-page report going line by line through everything. So please review that from a legal standpoint. I think it's very solid. My wife and I lived next door to 951 Yorkshire Court for 22 years. We raised our kids here. We plan to enjoy growing old here and spending the rest of our lives. Our home's a modest split level 2,000 square foot home. It's not a 2-story home. So the developer saying that all the homes in the adjacent area are 2-story, I'm not sure about that terminology, but I don't think a split level home is the same as a 2-story home. Our lowest level, our single level, is directly to the south next to the existing proposed structure. And if you look at my notes in the report, they're proposing to go increase that dramatically up over 12 feet. So that's a big concern. So I'm not against development. I know we have a housing crisis in the Bay Area. I want to try to solve that. And I've supported 3 complete remodels on Yorkshire Court. I've supported that construction because they were all in character with our neighborhood with regard to scale. What is being proposed now by this development company, as an aside, they're out of town with company, in multiple states with over 200 employees. What they're proposing with the surrounding homes in the Trails neighborhood, it's just way out of proportion in terms of scale. Since my time is of the essence, I want to bring your attention to the couple, 4 important issues. All right. There's a major mistake in their design narrative. They're saying the square footage of the lot is 7,390. It is only 6,000 square feet. So please take a look at that because a lot of their information goes off of that. The proposed structure at 951 Yorkshire is larger in height, square footage, surface area than any other in the entire Lafayette Oaks neighborhood, not just the Trails neighborhood. Somebody brought up drainage. Okay. I have a lot more to say, but
yeah.
well, I got it.
I appreciate that. I'm sure some of your other neighbors will share some of those comments, and we have been forwarded your written document and have read it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next is Eric Bierhaus.
Thank you.
Hello,
Mr. Beard.
everyone. Can you
Go
hear me?
ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Great. First of all, thank you for spending the time tonight to discuss this. This is very thankful for you putting your time and effort into this. So my name is Eric. My wife is Rebecca. We actually live directly across the street from these at 944 Yorkshire, and we're new to the neighborhood, but we also wanted to be here tonight to support our neighbors, that we are excited to have some new property in the area that has some slightly updated outside. That is great for the character of the neighborhood. But we also wanted to echo the concerns that the previous neighbors had talked about the kind of the character of these new houses is really not in line with the rest of the neighborhood. So like specifically quoting from 6-1905, unreasonably reducing the privacy of adjacent properties, reducing the hillside and tree views of the adjacent properties, blocking sunshine of adjacent properties. And then I think I want to echo what Jim already said about the parking concerns. Those are all extremely valid. And so I feel that especially our view outside our house across the street, this new house will be, significantly higher than the existing structures in there. I think it will affect the character of the neighborhood. So we really want to bring that up as something that should be taken into consideration in these new houses. And that's really the extent of our comments on this right now. We do want to stand with our neighbors, and we do think that the character of the neighborhood is really important to us. And I know we're new here on the block, literally the new kids on the block, but we want to maintain that character, and we think it's important that these aren't such giant houses that are going to be blocking a lot of those, the lovely nature of the hillside overlay district. So that's all our comments. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
If there's anyone else who would like to make a comment on these items, please use the raise hand function or press *9. I'm seeing no hands raised.
Okay, do we give the applicant a chance to respond to these comments? That's correct, right? Okay, so Mr. Liu or Mr. Hollister, do you have any comments in response to the public comment?
Yes, thank you. So thank you all first for your feedback and comments. Everything said today has been noted and documented, and we'll be sure to let our design team know and find ways to continue to refine our proposal. So be rest assured that you were heard today. I just wanted to comment that everything we have designed today conforms to the Lafayette design guidelines. On this lot, there is no maximum lot coverage, which would allow us to basically build right up against the setback area. For design purposes, we have chosen not to maximize the footprint given the established setbacks by positioning our house away from the minimum setbacks. By not maximizing the footprint, we have considered to provide a usable backyard like most of the homes in the area. Additionally, with no floor area ratio on this lot, we have elected not to create stacking mass as well to maximize the square footage. Instead, we have taken into account the surrounding homes, massing context and neighborhood forms by stepping back the second story to provide a higher standard of design and aesthetic too as well. So, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I believe we go to commissioner comments. Armin or Glenn, would either of you like to start?
I'll start.
Okay, thank you, Glenn.
Okay, first of all, I apologize because I did read all the comments. I looked at it earlier in the week. I read all the comments. I was doing a thorough review this afternoon when the power went out. And so most of my comments are going to reflect what I looked at on 951. But I'm assuming that many of the comments will also apply to the other property as well. I agree with most of the community comments. It's too big of a house for the character of that neighborhood. The character of that neighborhood really would dictate pushing the limit of what they are right now. I would say they need to be down close to about 3,100 square feet, including garages. So I know that the header height is 8 foot on both of them. I'm not sure exactly how you could change the roof slope or whatever. I like the architectural style. I like what the architect has done to draw out features of the neighborhood. I don't think that style-wise they're out of character. I just think size-wise they're out of character with the neighborhood. So I'd like to see them closer to about 3,100 square foot personally myself. And that will still give you almost 50% more than most of the neighbors that are there. There's a couple things. Some of these are just suggestions, but I make them all the time. Get rid of the sod. I don't think that Lafayette should be including lawns anymore. I know that City Council just approved the new water requirements, which were dated back to the state 2017 requirements. We've had drought for a number of years. I don't think anyone needs to have a lawn anymore in Lafayette, especially newly put in lawn. The driveways, unless the slope is greater than 3%, we usually require permeable pavers to be put in. Likewise, some of the patio areas, walkway areas, many of those that are subordinate on the side of the house, those P3 areas should also be permeable pavers. Only about 30% of the plants that are specified are actually plants that are listed by the East Bay Mud in their publication for recommended plants for this area. I noticed that the landscape architect was from San Francisco. I think he's done a fairly good job. I do think that it needs to be tweaked. I would like to see at least about 10% of the plants being very low water use, whereas right now we have low water use and medium water use, and the lawn is high water use. Some of the plant locations and arrangements, I think, are off a bit. He has a manzanita that is in front of the Seaside Daisy. The manzanita is going to get 4 feet tall. The Seaside Daisy is going to get about 1.5 feet tall. So you're going to lose the appearance of that arrangement of the plants to a large extent. Also, the Seaside Daisy, if you go to the Sunset Book, it's not recommended for zone 14, which Lafayette is in. It will just fry in the hot temperature. So I think that if you're looking for an aster, there are a number of other asters, California natives, that will actually be a little bit more drought tolerant and will be able to take on the extra heat as well. So the tree selection seems to be okay, with the exception is we have a live oak on the one corner of 951. I don't know which trees were at 945, but we usually do not plant anything under the drip line of the oaks. They do not want to be watered during the summertime. And so therefore, those plants, that arrangement should be rearranged as well. So that's my general comments. I'd like the architectural design. I just hope that you can reconform more to the character of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Armin, what would you like to add?
Sure. I agree with Glenn about the size of the houses. They seem to be too large for the relative in relation to the size of the lot. Sorry, beforehand, I want to thank the applicant for the great presentation, and in general, the architecture and the style of the house, they're both looking very well developed and in line with the design guidelines of Lafayette. That the size is one of the comments. My other comment in relation to the size is the north side of the two properties. On the south, both of them, they're on the upper story, they're sitting back, and there's a nice articulation and the setback on the upper story. On the north, they both look very flat and lack of articulation. I think in relation to reducing the massing of the building for both of them, if there is a setback on the north side, that could help with reducing the concern of the privacy and overlooking into the neighbors on the north side of 951, and also just reducing the bulk and the massing of the two buildings as well. And then my last comment is about the materials. I think here in BRC, we are trying to make the blends and the materials blend in with the trees and the kind of surrounding nature, especially on the hillside overlay district. And the white color siding, I think that's going to create a contrast. And I would suggest to go with something a little bit kind of more moderate, so it can blend in with the environment better.
Thank you. So we can wrap up with my comments. So I also would like to thank the applicant for a clear presentation on the design intentions and inspiration. Overall, I agree with my colleagues and their comments. The biggest challenge that I see is the size of the project. It does feel out of scale with the neighborhood. I do think it's acceptable to have a bigger home than what's there now, and that change happens and we need to accept that evolution. But I think this is just a little bit too out of scale. And so I would encourage trimming it back a little bit. The other thing that I would appreciate seeing is not sort of twin homes next to each other. The thing that struck me as I saw the presentation of the neighborhood inspiration is that even though there's some consistent patterns of design and architecture in the neighborhood, that most of the homes felt quite varied. And it would be, for me, more appealing if these two neighboring buildings weren't so similar. So I'd be more inclined to feel comfortable with their addition to the neighborhood if they weren't twins of each other. So I think in aggregate, our comments are pretty clear. Some modifications to the landscape, reducing the overall size to be more consistent with the scale of the neighborhood, and being maybe a little bit more attention to a moderate color palette on the white. The other thing I would ask is that when you come back for a future presentation, please make sure to show us all the elevations. I think we have a very clear sense of how it looks from the street, less a clear sense of how it looks from the other neighbors and from the back. And we want to be able to speak fairly and accurately to how those other elevations might create privacy concerns or mediate privacy between neighbors. So I think showing us those other elevations as well as site sections that show very clearly the relationship between houses on all the different sides. So thank you. And with that, I guess we would be moving on to the neighboring property. So I don't know if we want to have Anna present that in more detail, or would we like to, commissioners, have the applicant present? I think we've seen a fair amount of that presentation. Do we want to just move to comments?
Well, I'm willing to go to comments directly, but if the applicant wants more time, I think we should give it to him. But I think he has summarized it where we know what his intent is.
So I don't think we need, Anna, I don't think we need you to do your presentation again. It was very clear. And so I guess, Nancy, are we able to ask the applicant if they would like to present again, or if they would like to just move to public comment, after which they will be able to respond?
Instead of promoting them, and it takes a kind of couple seconds or a minute or so to move them over. Casper, if you'd like to provide any additional comments, I will promote you if you raise your hand. Not raising his hand.
Okay, it's like this suspenseful moment. Okay, so great. I think we have a very clear picture of what this neighboring property will look like and what the design intentions are. And with that, we would like to open it up to public comment.
If any, James Audley has raised his hand.
Mr. Audley, feel free to unmute yourself and begin.
Hi, this is Trina Audley. I'm actually James's wife. Obviously, we're just below the properties, and we look uphill toward both 951 and 945. So my big thing, and already Kristen touched on it, I would like to see from the north elevation, the west elevation, what it would look like with story poles up. That's really my big thing, because from our perspective, it's really difficult to tell how high it will go. And all I can think of is I'm going to look out my kitchen window, every window in my backyard, and see the back of a large 30-foot building instead of trees and sky and ridge lines that I see now. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have additional public comment?
If anyone would like to provide public comment, please use the raise hand function or press *9. No hands are raised.
No hands are raised?
Correct.
Okay. Well, then the applicant has the opportunity to respond to Ms. Audley's comment.
I'll be promoting Casper.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, thank you for your feedback. We'll be taking this back to our design team. This is definitely not the final design. So, as I mentioned, nothing is finalized today. So you will definitely be notified of any updates that we have. And I'm sure the city will also update as they continue to proceed as well. So thank you again for your time and your comments.
Okay, great. Thank you, Casper. So with that, we can move on to commissioner comments. Armin, you want to start this time? We'll alternate.
Sure. I think my comments, they would stand the same for this building. In addition to everything mentioned, I would encourage the applicant for the formal application. They would include site sections that would show the relationship between the proposed building and the neighbors on both sides, both the north, south, and east, west. So we could see the openings in relation to the neighbors, and also the existing building in terms of the height versus the proposed ones. I would suggest show the dash line with that as well.
Thank you, Armin. Glenn?
I think I covered this building fairly well, so I don't really, I reconfirm what Kristen and Armin have said about the sections and the cross sections and elevations so that we have more details. I didn't mention it last time, but I agree on the color on the other one mostly, because we really, even though one of the adjacent properties is white, we are trying to get away from white buildings on the hillside district. So it needs to be tweaked to a little extent. And that's my comments.
Okay, thank you. So I would agree with my fellow commissioners. We're a very agreeable group tonight. I agree with their comments. One recommendation I have in light of the request for story polls or a way to understand the scale of the building more is that when you come back to present the project to us, it'd be great to maybe see some 3D models of the neighborhood, just simple massing models, and that show the scale of the neighborhood, of the existing buildings, of the landscape that's there, and the new buildings. And I think that that will help prove what a more appropriate scale of the building would be, of the homes would be, and also help make it more clear to the neighbors, in addition to potentially store polls. But I think by studying the overall development in that way, there would be a really clear understanding and representation of the scale of the neighborhood in terms of slopes and relationship between existing buildings and the proposed buildings. So that would be my one addition to the comments, because I think that everything made for the first building would really apply to this house as well. So thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing how the project develops and to seeing the additional representation of it. So thank you. Okay, moving on to the next items in our agenda. So those were our two study sessions for tonight. Our other business would be an ARC volunteer for October 14th, which is this Friday.
Handle that.
You'll do that, Glenn. You're going to get a gold star, a lot of gold stars, or something hopefully better for all the ARC volunteers. So thank you for that. The next item on our agenda is, are there any commissioners' reports? No
None
commissioner.
for me.
No.
Okay, thank you. Final item before adjournment would be staff liaison report. Are there any reports, Nancy?
No reports, but I just wanted to make a correction for the West End continuation. Since we don't have quorum, it can't be moved to November 23rd. So it'll be automatically moved to the following meeting, which is October 26th.
And then would it be continued again? Like, well, I guess.
With a vote. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. All right. And with that, I believe we have completed everything on the agenda, and we can adjourn the October 12th Design Review Commission meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Good job.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a good week.